So we're going to machine this inside, they call it the inside head next. So I said before that it come up from the bottom, but it actually goes on the top here, in between here and here. So the bolts go through here, and then this actually gets tapped here, so it gets bolted in from the bottom. So we got to turn it down here to 625 so it registers up inside of the steam cylinder, and then 750 on this end so it registers down into the frame. And then the piston rod gland that we made earlier gets bolted to the bottom. So I've cut it off with the bandsaw and then just did a little bit of rough sanding with the belt sander. So the challenge is a way to hold it, and I was going to machine a piece of aluminum out with a pocket to set in here and try to super glue it, but I looked through my split collars. So I've got a bunch of these in random sizes, and it's just a piece of metal that's split. I found one that fits perfect. It's a good tight fit on there. So I'm going to see if I can clamp this in the chuck to hold this and get this side faced off and get this OD turned down. So once we get this OD turned down, then we can clamp that in the chuck jaws and then finish off this side. Let's get it set up and see what it does. So that all went pretty good. Got the inside cylinder head machined. So we still got to drill 2 holes for the gland. So we'll locate these holes from this, so that's why we made this piece earlier. And then once we get those holes, there's 4 more holes that gets drilled in here. And then once we get those holes drilled, then we can put it in here, and then we can drill the 4 holes into the steam cylinder. So eventually there will be a screw that comes down through here through both pieces, and then this gets drilled and tapped here. But we're going to save that to the end so that we can make sure and orient it the correct way to line it up for the valve. So we want to get that lined up before we drill and tap these holes. But while I've already got the lathe set up, I'm going to go ahead and make the piston rod. So this gets cut to length and then gets threaded on both ends. And we got to make 5 nuts. So the kit provides some brass hex stock. So we need to make 1 540 nut and then 4 348 nuts. So we'll go ahead and do both of those while I got the lathe set up before I tear that down to set up the mill. That's the joy of having a combo machine. And while I got the lathe set up, I'm also going to work on the crosshead here. So this gets cut off from the eccentric piece here, and then it'll get turned to 750 on the OD, and then this end gets drilled and tapped, and then once we set the mill up, we will mill out a pocket up here in the top and then drill a hole through here. And then when I get the mill set back up, we'll go ahead and finish out the connecting rod. So it gets a hole drilled in this end, and then we need to drill and tap this before we split this apart. So then we'll take a slitting saw and cut this apart and then bolt it back together and then drill this for the big end of the rod. So let's get started. Okay, we need to lay out the bolt circle on this inner cylinder head. So what I've done is taken a center finder and I've scribed one line here in the center, which will be for the two bolt holes for the gland. So now we need to make some marks 45 degrees from that. So what I've got is a D-block set up, and I got a 1, 2, 3 block back here just to help hold it. So, and I've got a 45-degree angle. So we're going to set this in here and line up our mark on the 45. And then I've got the scribe set to a measure to the height, the top, and then I've measured halfway to the center so we can scribe some lines. And then we'll turn it and do the same thing. And then we know that this is on a 1-inch bolt circle, so we can make another mark from the edge, and then we'll know where to drill our holes. So that all went pretty good. Was able to get the nuts made. Got one nut on here. Was able to get the piston rod made and then threaded. Bolted onto the piston. And I got the rings on there. And then I got the inner cylinder head, got the holes drilled in there. And then we got the holes drilled and tapped, and then the gland bolted on the bottom. So there will be packing material that goes under this gland around the rod that you'll tighten this up against. Got the crosshead finished. Turned on the OD, and then the pocket machined out in the middle. And then we got the connecting rod drilled and tapped and then split in half, and then the hole in both ends, and then the pin holding it so you can see how it all goes together. This connects to the connecting rod, and then the crosshead will go up and down and move the piston up and down. So then I was able to transfer the holes from this to our cylinder, get the holes drilled in it, and then I was able to transfer those holes and get the holes drilled and tapped in the top here. So let's get it all bolted together and see if it's going to work. Okay, got everything bolted together now. Looks like everything's moving like it's supposed to. Everything's good and free. So I think we're ready to move on to the next step. So the next step, we'll work on the valve that goes inside of here, and then all of the linkage that comes from the valve out of here. There's some brackets here that mounts a piece that slides up and down, and then eventually works its way back to the eccentric that goes on the crankshaft. So we'll start on all that next time. Thanks for watching.